Christopher Chen is a San Francisco-based playwright whose works have been produced across the United States and abroad. His plays include the Obie Award-winning Caught, Passage, The Late Wedding, and The Headlands.
Hello?
Did you figure out how you're going to read some of your play for us?
Yes, I think I can stumble through this. So this is an excerpt from a very early play of mine called The 100 Flowers Project, which I annotated for the Yale Review. And I'm going to read something from Act 2, but in Act 1, it starts out as a group of theater artists trying to collaboratively make a play about Mao Zedong and the Cultural Revolution. But then in Act 2, the play kind of segues into this very surreal realm. So suddenly all the naturalism is gone by the time we reach Act 2. So Act 2, and if I go on too long, you just stop me. Act 2, a new and barren land atmosphere, journalist alone. She surveys the stage. She doesn't know where to go. Journalist, hello? Sam? Mel? Anybody? Puzzled, but not yet alarmed, she sits back down on her seat and scrolls through her iPhone. She looks around but still doesn't see anybody. She clutches her iPhone. Whenever she narrates into it. Journalist. Article on the 100 Flowers Project posing more questions than answers. I thought I had a grasp on the meaning of the play, but now I can't remember what my initial thoughts were. Text appears, at first flickering, but as the scene goes on, it solidifies. Legend of the journalist. Atmosphere slowly shifts down to something even more eerie and surreal. From here on in, everything is fully produced and with a heightened aesthetic, with a shifting soundscape throughout the entire rest of the play. Journalist. I find that in fact there is much I can't remember. My head feels like a cloud. The dimmest memories of research, reading from her iPhone. History being created as the event itself unfolds. Did I write that? I narrate more here. I've never narrated this much before. I feel the urge to leave now and pick up again in the morning, but I can't seem to remember where the exit is. Did I come in here, or was it there? For now, the only thing I can do is to keep moving forward with my article. I can only keep moving. Aiden, a previous actor, dressed as a stagehand, becomes visible, working in another part of the stage. Journalist. Hello? Excuse me? Aiden looks around nervously and furtively. Oh, hi. Journalist. I'm working on an article about the 100 Flowers Project, and I was wondering if I could ask you some questions. Aiden. I don't think I could be of much help. I'm just a stagehand. Journalist. Please? There's something plaintive in her voice that gives him pause. Aiden. Okay, but we'll have to make it quick.
Thank you for doing that. And you mentioned that that it's an early play, so thank you also for being willing to share it and revisit it. And I'm curious how it felt to go back to something early. Are there things you've learned since writing it that would make you want to do things differently? Did you feel the urge to get in and tinker as you reread it, or did it feel very distant from you?
No, actually, this was the play that kind of helped, I think, solidify my voice a little bit. So it was actually kind of refreshing to go back to it and kind of feel just how, just kind of navigate back to the beginning of my journey and see just how the seeds of it were kind of planted. This was written like in 2010. And yeah, I found myself, I was kind of almost impressed by myself how I was able to kind of, I don't know, how I was playing with form back then and kind of making these bold choices. And I can even remember just the feeling back then of just this like giddy excitement of like, wow, can I do this? Can I really do this? Can I really do this in a play about the Cultural Revolution? Can this be a substitute for the history? Can this be a metaphor for this? I feel in a way, as I've worked with other theater companies, with maybe more money involved, I feel in some ways I might have lost some of that initial kind of boldness. So it was refreshing to kind of go back to this early play and kind of be like, this is what made me successful. These types of bold moves. So it was very fun going back.
I'm relieved to hear that. Yeah, and it is really amazing. So and as Chris said, he annotated the play for us. So there are notes running along the bottom of it. Which is such a great opportunity to sort of get some of that thinking about what you were trying to do and sort of how it's developed since then. And in one of those annotations, you say something like that you often start with an idea, that's where a play begins for you as a way into a subject, as opposed to presumably like seeing a scene or thinking of an event or having a character. And you also talk about sort of letting your characters talk about and reflect on ideas and intellectualize in a way that maybe we don't often see in naturalist theater, but feels true to sort of how you talk with your friends. And I'm curious if that kind of ideas forward approach to playwriting puts certain kinds of pressures on conventional dramatic elements like plot, character, action, sort of how it actually shapes the plays as you're writing them.
That's a really good question. I think, again, kind of starting with this play and around this time, I think I made the decision early on that I was going to be a very unconventional playwright. So I never wrote a naturalistic living room drama. I always kind of started with experimenting with form, because I think, a lot of my inspirations, a lot of these modernist writers, like say Virginia Woolf was one of my earliest inspirations, played with form, and it wasn't about plot. It was just about kind of I don't know, just going where the form took her. And so I kind of early on just allowed myself the freedom to be a structuralist first, with the understanding that character and depth of feeling would come from that. Because I think oftentimes I am a head-first writer, but I also have emotions, and so I wanted to try to capture that first. But I do like that initial inspiration of what just immediately excites me and electrifies me, and kind of go into that first, and then kind of start the digging process from there. And so, yeah, oftentimes I do like to start structural things excite me first, and I like the challenge of figuring out how a structure an original and unique structure can illuminate a theme in a very interesting, unique way. So for example, I've always been interested in the history of modern China from the Cultural Revolution on. And so I specifically tried to, find after doing some research, finding out what the essence of, what the germ of Mao's reign really was to me, that really interested me. So after doing some research, I landed on just the way in which he gained power through self-mythologizing, and kind of put his country in kind of this hazy, cult-like subservience through this relentless self-mythologizing. And so when I was thinking about what kind of a structure can I have for this play, The 100 Flowers Project, I landed on, it's going to be about a group of theater artists who are very collaborative at first, who are very loose and naturalistic, collaboratively, without any hierarchy, anything like that, kind of like the ideals of communism, creating this play together. But as the play progresses, and I figured this out before I started writing, as the play progresses, it's going to become a propaganda play about the making of the play itself from Act 1. And so with that kind of structural tent, I was able to kind of fill in the emotions of the characters subsequently.
That's great, and it is. I feel like now I should say they do really feel like characters, and it's a very sharp like satire of that director, and it's very funny. So I love that moving in that direction can still get you to these people. You in your prize video, which they showed at the ceremony on Wednesday, you said something that seemed very generous to me about how you think of your play as 50% of the experience of theater, and the audience brings the other 50%. And that seemed generous to me because it made me aware of how much the rest of an audience makes me very anxious when I'm at the theater. Like, how are they going to react? Like, is someone going to laugh inappropriately? Is someone talking too loud? And so another editor at the review had the very good question of sort of like, are there times when that 50% has gone wrong, or when you've regretted that input, or does discomfort, derailing, oddness feel productive in its own way for you? Are you interested in that?
It's always terrifying, but I can't do it any way else, I think. Yeah, and I think, and that kind of ethos comes from, I think, just kind of imagining what plays I want to see. And I love theater or works of art in general that really provoke me, that activate me. I think another playwright once said, this sounds very technical, but I still adhere to it. A play is nothing but a series of strategies to activate the audience. And I really like that, and that kind of, in order to find a way to really turn on an audience's brain and heart, I think is a more of a challenge than you think. And so really finding the art in doing that has become kind of one of my constant questions I ask myself as I kind of move through a piece. Is this surprising? Is this the thing that might make the audience jump up and kind of perk up and kind of also explore themselves too? I think one of the reasons I love literature and poetry so much is that it really does allow for the audience or the readers to do self-reflection in the processing of it. It kind of allows some more space in a way. And with theater, sometimes it doesn't allow for that because it's much more, it's time-based, and you're kind of controlling the audience's time. And so I've always been fascinated in trying to find ways in the theatrical form to do that equivalent of what I like about literature, other forms of literature.
Yeah, great. It's your turn to choose. Favorites, first, last, or never?
I will say first as well.
First as well. What was the first play, or book, I guess, you saw or read that made you want to write?
Well, one of the first productions that kind of made me just perk up in the theatrical form, to the theatrical form was Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera. As a young 13-year-old, just seeing the spectacle of theater, when the chandelier rose up, I was like, woo, oh my God. This is back in the 90s, so it was much more impressive back then. And then when it crashed down, I was like, oh my God. So that activated me, and I think, even though I'm also an intellectual playwright, perhaps, I've always been excited to incorporate spectacle in my theater too, in my writing too, in all my productions, to just again like try to activate the audience in all ways possible with this kind of live medium.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.